Trump and Zelensky. Because that happened.
Oh, yeah, that was last week, though.
Yeah, last week. Yeah, because we never had our podcast.
Yes.
What's the thought process? What were you thinking on that one? You know? I'm going to assume you watched it.
No, I didn't.
You haven't seen the clip?
No, I saw the clips of... I didn't watch the whole exchange. I saw some clips of it. And then I saw some background information, some of which I have not verified, that Zelensky met with some Democrats first. I saw his ambassador throw her head down. Just, that spoke volumes as to he's definitely going off script here or off what the plan was, which makes you wonder what he was thinking. But obviously he's somebody that I do agree that there's been opportunities for peace. I think, not that, I wouldn't say that he doesn't care about people dying, but I think he cares more about posture and Ukraine and acting like we're big boy players and we can take on Russia and hold our own even though millions are dying. But guess what? So is there millions, so keep the war game going. I find it more interesting how I'm all for peace. I think the current president's all for peace. I don't think there's money to be made. I know they make a fortune in wars, our government and other companies, but I just don't, from the very beginning, people who watch the podcast, I always said, I don't care about Ukraine, which that was before 1 million people died. Right. I care about those people, but we got involved in something that we probably caused or had our hand in as a nation, which was wrong. A lot of it we're unraveling now through the financial crap that we're seeing that funds those kind of conflicts, that creates things in Ukraine. So when he comes to the White House, that is a privilege to go there. Whether it's Biden sitting there or Trump or Obama, whoever, and you're technically coming with your hand out. You mean nothing to us. We don't need anything from you.
It was a little weird where he's... Okay, well, let me take it back for a second. It does feel like J.D. Vance kind of enticed him, because the big meme right now is you're supposed to...
You mean antagonized him.
Yeah, what did I say?
Enticed. You mean antagonized him.
Antagonized, yeah, I guess is the right word. But I forget what he said, but he's like, you should be thanking the United States. And it kind of came out of nowhere. And that's when Zelensky
but there's background, because this is the third time he was supposed to sign this mineral deal. 2 times Zelensky got everybody there and backed out. So a lot of people didn't realize this until Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, was speaking about this. And he's a pretty mild-mannered guy. Right. Okay? He's not antagonistic like a Vice President Vance. He says, 2 times we've come to the table with this person. He finally comes to the White House. You think the third time it's more, this is just ceremonial. Not to sit there and now question everything and act like, I'm not backing out, or I'm second guessing doing this mineral deal. Which, by the way, we've already given you billions of dollars with no collateral.
We probably paid for that over, right? We probably technically already paid for this mineral deal, and now we're giving you more.
And a lot of people didn't realize that until after that meeting. When now you see, oh, okay, now I understand why the president was a little bit like, you guys sit here and mouth to me, or you obviously thought we were working towards peace here. Whereas his posture was he wants to keep this going.
The way Zelensky kind of makes it like, the way I kind of see it is Zelensky kind of made it sound like, with your military, we're undefeatable, which isn't our goal. Our goal was never to continue this war, right? And then he says, I'm going to make I feel like a fair statement for Zelensky. English isn't his number 1 language, so maybe he didn't exactly mean it a certain way or the way it was said.
Right.
But he's like, your sons and daughters will feel the effects of this, or your nation will feel the effects of this. And that, the way he said it does kind of sound like a threat, and that's where Trump kind of was like, how dare you talk to us like this is, like, what's going to happen to our country. The other one that was weird was the guy that was like, why are you not wearing a suit? Do you remember that one? You know that guy? It's the guy that...
The guy with Trump, when Trump said it.
One of his guys, it's the guy that started the...
Marco Rubio.
No. It's the CEO that started, or I shouldn't say, the director of the guy that started the Project 2025. I forget his name. The owner of that company that started the 2025 project.
There were a few people involved in it.
Yeah, the head guy. But basically he's like, hey, if you're going to come to the White House, can you at least wear a suit? Now, here's what my counter argument is, where I do side with Zelensky. When your people are at war, I don't know if it's an appropriate thing to wear a nice multi-$1,000 suit, even if you are going to the White House.
$multi-thousand.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
That we would be paying for without.
Yeah. Now then again, also
$1,000,000,000.
he is flying around on a private jet, so I guess I don't know. That one to me, I was like, I can kind of understand why you wouldn't wear a suit. In the you're kind
Yeah, I
of
mean, I
optics.
think Trump made a comment too when he pulled up, tried to make a joke about it, that he even dressed for the occasion or something to that effect.
Yeah.
I'm least concerned about that, frankly. That I don't find insulting, but I think the attitude should have been more of coming with appreciation, that we're trying to help you get peace, that we're trying to. And in all fairness, Trump did make this his platform. He was voted because he said, I will end that war. So yeah, he does have a vested interest, and it is about him personally. He got elected to do this.
Right.
And Trump, his ego. You don't come a third time and play games with us.
Right.
You're just Ukraine. Let's remember that. You're just Ukraine. And you're getting a lot of attention only because of this war over there. So I don't mean to be insulting to the Ukrainian people. They're fabulous people. But, the funny part is when the old clips of Zelensky in his quote-unquote acting or
his
comedy days looking like a real jerk, which, you can make the same comment about our president was on The Apprentice and he did silly things. But this is somebody now who's going to come here after we've given billions of dollars to them, half of which we don't even know.
Hundreds of billions.
Hundreds of billions of dollars. We don't even know where the money went, right? We're trying to work out, all right, obviously you still need funding, we got to do something here, so at least give us something in exchange.
Yeah.
And his answer is, no, I want soldiers.
Right. He wants us to fight his war.
Right.
Right.
No, not just the U.S., he wants Germany, which is more than happy to do it. France,
Yeah.
Russia, they all are very quick to say, oh, the U.S. has to send their people, they have to support this war. Where are you guys?
They just had, he goes over to them and they're like, we're going to help, but I'm curious to see what kind of help they give. They'll probably just give finances. I doubt they're going to give soldiers.
Well,
maybe Germany, but
was it yesterday? Trump says, I'm thinking of withdrawing 35,000 troops from Germany.
Yeah.
That's huge. That's big. That's a message to Germany that we're their forces over there.
Yeah.
So we start withdrawing those people. They have to step up.
Yeah.
You want to start sending your people over to Ukraine to die over there, and just pick a fight, more of a fight with Putin? Go right ahead. That's what he meant by World War III.
Yeah.
We're getting our people out of there, and I hope he's thinking about it. Sometimes that's a threat, enough of a threat.
Yeah, but and this is where I kind of turn a little bit on the, liberals. But the problem with the big statement is Trump's Putin's puppet or however you want to say it. But it's like, okay, well, I don't know how much of this Putin hasn't really said he wants this war. He's actually the one that said he wanted a peace deal the whole time. Even though we can get into the conspiracy of Boris Johnson saying don't do it, whatever, with Zelensky. But we just saw Zelensky say he wants to prolong this war and keep going with our soldiers.
Yeah.
Which makes me go, well, that's the complete opposite of what Putin wanted, right?
Yeah.
Even though Putin stepped in first because, again, we won't go into the whole they broke a treaty, blah, blah, blah. But he attacked, and he says, well, now I want peace, and I'm working towards a peace deal. And then we were like, okay, good. Zelensky, let's talk about this peace deal. And he goes, no, I want to keep fighting using your people. Like that, to me, that's where I go, oh, why have we been funding this war? So...
And honestly...
because it doesn't seem like defense anymore, Now it seems like we're going on the attack.
Yeah.
And that was never the goal.
That's certainly not what Trump wants to get our country into. That's how you wind up with a 20-year Afghanistan or Middle East. And we never should have been there in the first place. Agreements were made, and I told you, I was watching Soga Bacha, I can't think of the full name. She had a very good point. We're right where we are now, negotiating exactly where we were 2 years ago. And the difference is 1 million people have died. 1 million soldiers in Ukraine and Russian soldiers, where we're right back where they're not getting into NATO.
Right.
Ukraine wanted to be in NATO. And Putin said, we agreed a long time ago. No, these satellite nations will not be allowed to join NATO. So fast forward, they have a democratic election. The United States winds up, we're finding out through all the Doge stuff, they wound up financing basically a coup over there with our dollars, which is becoming more and more apparent, and you wind up with Zelensky. That's not a democracy.
Right.
Why are we there? We're supposed to support democracies. That's our goal, to support democracies around the world versus communism. Okay. Well, when you're stirring up a hornets over there, to some extent, I can justify, all right, we should give them some money. I'm not happy about it, especially when our border was being overrun. But how much of it was from our stupid-ass government officials getting involved? And then you can't just walk away and say, oh, well, sorry that you had 1 million people killed. That conflict continued longer. It never would have happened if Trump was in office. I do believe that. I believe that Putin saw weakness and said, I'm nipping this NATO thing in the bud now with the past administration, and this is where we are.
Right.
But back to what we're saying. You come to our country, whether you like us or not, you come and ask for money, basically. And now you want us to give our soldiers, when we're deploying soldiers rightly down to our own border to protect it, and up to Northern Canada to protect it. And you want to, and so I'm all for time to shake up the places over the other side of the water, right? Time to let them know, because they're the quick ones to say, oh, you don't have to struggle because there's a big water body between what we're dealing with, what you have.
Right.
Okay, it works both ways. Then why do I have my soldiers over there? Why is my our sons and daughters in Germany, in Greece, in all these, Greece, whatever, all these other countries, helping and supporting the initiatives there? Bring them home.
Yeah. Huh.
If you're just going to treat us like, oh, the U.S., and I love it how all of a sudden everybody talks tough. Germany, France, UK. Okay? But when the reality is, the U.S. isn't going to support it. Well, the UK Prime Minister wound up dumping or promising soldiers and all this money as soon as after that meeting, right? Have at it. Go right ahead. Keep funding World War III. And like World War I and World War II, guess who they're going to call to bail them out?
The USA?
USA.
And then we're going to go through a depression?
It's just, whether you like the guy or not, I'm happy to see somebody in there who is just not going to, we're not going to get kicked around anymore as Americans. Every day we're learning more and more about how we're getting screwed. And God bless this country that the backbone of this country, we're keeping it afloat. We should have gone under a long time ago between Doge, the border, the things we're learning.
Really. Well,
right?
I guess it just goes to show how much money we have or have printed or taxed, whatever. But also, it still baffles me that people are upset with Elon digging this stuff out.
But they're not. That's the point. And that's what I care about this country.
The Democratic senators are. I mean, it's funny. The second he starts overturning some of these stones, they're like, he's a criminal.
Nazi, a racist.
Right? 2 years ago, before he bought Twitter, he was the smartest man in the world. Now he's the complete opposite of that. He's finding all this corruption. And he goes, yeah, so our $34 trillion debt probably isn't as high as we think. And now all the Democrats are like, how dare he? The Democratic Party is just falling apart.
Yeah.
There's nothing left of that party.
Yeah.
Which is very strange.
And they're fighting. They're having meetings upon meetings upon meetings about how we got to remessage ourselves, how we have to repackage ourselves.
Oh yeah.
So you dug yourself in this hole. People mocked you for going down that road, and now you're left with a big stinking heap of transgender, sanctuary city. Anything goes. I love the immigrant versus the American citizen.
Right.
Good luck with that, because the last election, the American citizens, some of whom were Democrats and liberals, spoke up and said, we've had enough. You've taken it too far, like we said. So Trump's doing what he said he was going to do, and that's the beauty of our country.
The amount that he's accomplished in 2 months is pretty amazing. I will admit, I think a lot of it, or at least a good chunk of it, is mostly Elon right now, in the sense of digging up all this corruption that we've seen. I would say that's why you're seeing him in the spotlight a lot more, because we talked about it on the podcast. I do feel like he's a little too much in the spotlight, but then when you see what he's overturned, you go, oh wow, that's quite a bit.
Well, I also think it's a very good strategy. Fortunately, I think Trump did learn from the first time. And the last administration made it easier because it was just getting that bad. That you have a mandate from a majority of the people in this country based on the election, right? And that mandate propels you that he just hit the ground running. Executive order, doing this, doing that. For people who are like, you can't do this, you can't do this. Damn right you can, because Biden did the same thing. He just hit the ground running. You just sign things left and right. And it really kind of caught the Democratic Party off guard. They didn't have time to launch their resistance like the last time.
Is it off guard or just completely given up? I'm going to assume you saw the whole Trump's speech. What is it? I forget what speech it is.
It's not the State of the Union, but the address.
Yeah, sort of like an address.
Address to Congress.
And they made that 13-year-old kid that had the 13 surgeries.
Yeah.
Democrats didn't even stand up for it. They had to kick Al Green out.
Yep.
I mean, they're so. I mean, I guess out of touch is the right word.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I can't even explain that. But what's weird is, and again, I'm sure there's some conservatives in there, but it's like, you guys couldn't stand up for. There's no defending that, right?
Yeah.
You can come up with any excuse or, oh, you didn't see the whole thing. But still, like a kid that's had 13 brain surgeries, who was bullied his whole life because of his appearance, right? You couldn't stand up for that, even if you disagree with the guy. Right. That's kind of, to me, that's like the definition of the Democratic Party right now.
Right, and even if it's gratuitous, let it go.
Yeah, and don't even get me started on you saw the women's vote, the keep men out of women's sports, not a single Democrat voted for it. Yeah. And it still didn't pass.
And that's the point. They're doubling down on this pile of heap, the transgender guys, that it's not getting them anywhere.
And it doesn't make sense.
Right, and you have somebody who's I'm not a big fan of him, but Fetterman's even saying...
He's making a turnaround. But
your messaging doesn't make sense, and he's absolutely right. Now, I'm not saying that he's the most enlightened person in the world, but their messaging, they're doubling down on something that didn't work before.
Right.
They got shellacked. And now we're finding in Florida, of all places, that the last election, there was some real garbage going on. So for people who say, I think we talked about this last time, I'm New Jersey. What do I care about what happens in Arizona? Of course I care, because you don't have enough of a majority. So are you really getting the will of the people if you have faulty elections? Not only the will of the people in Arizona, but by right, around the country, you need a fair voice. And I don't think it was that close an election this time either. We should have more of I think the party of Trump should have more people in the House and more in the Senate. But if you recall, we had these weekly, took 3 weeks to get the votes, and votes are coming out of nowhere.
Yeah,
now they're finding legitimately fraudulent votes or possible fraudulent votes in Florida, of all states.
Yeah. Well, don't forget the fraudulent Social Security right, they found 130,000 people that are 150 years old still taking Social Security. So where's that going?
So similar to that. If you don't monitor it, then you have mail-in ballots where you can't check. There's a whole thing about it, but it's basically they have rules, they have regs, but nothing was done.
Right.
Therefore, there's a huge number of votes. And I can't even tell you whether a Democrat or a Republican won that district. It was a state vote. I don't know. But my point is, it was blatantly fraudulent. And if that happens in red state Florida, virtually red state Florida, it's happening all over. Why do you care? If your state's clean, why do you care? You care because that makes a difference when it comes time for the big boy stuff.
Right.
When you're doing things like Doge and continuing resolutions and whatnot, and you're eking out a victory. I think there's more of a mandate than just it's a tie and Vance has to come in. I think more American citizens are not being fairly represented just based on the vote for Trump, where he said, I'm going to uncover a lot of waste and fraud.